This is the Outlap F1 podcast featuring America's own Cody, Andy, and Deanna. Your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. Join us on the Outlap.
Well, I certainly hope we're going to make this worth waiting for. Apologies for a bit of the lateness on the getting of the recording out, but we all had a lot to do. There was a lot going on over the course of the weekend, and the British Grand Prix was part of it, and we're definitely going to talk all about it. We've caught up on all of our sessions. There are a lot of them. Welcome on in. We're glad you're here. This is Season 8, Episode number 14. It's our 2026 British Grand Prix review show. You've got Andy. I am along with Mr. Cody tonight, who has had himself a week, man. I feel for you, dude. I understand where you've been, but I'm glad you're here. How's it been? At least just talk about today. Well, forget about the whole rest of last week. Just talk about today.
Today was actually really nice. Got to work from home. My wife was super kind and did all the grocery shopping herself. I made kebabs on the grill for dinner, and nice little day. The last, I've almost lost track of days already here. What is it, Tuesday? Yeah, the last 7 days about has been pretty awful. Unfortunately, anyone listening, my career is something that is very affected by the weather, and it was really, really hot and really, really stormy for a long period of time, and that meant I had to work a lot.
Yeah.
So I am tired, and I did not get to comfortably watch the British Grand Prix weekend, but I did get to see little snippets of it here and there. I was trying to force it into my day so that I could at least get a little enjoyment out of all the work I was doing.
Yeah, I mean, when I say Cody literally keeps the lights on around here, I'm not kidding. I swear to God, I'm not kidding. And the other thing I will say is I've lived in the Chicagoland area I'm 43 my entire life. I have never, in my 43 years on this planet, seen a summer that's not even over have this much freaking weather back to back to back to back happen. The way what's happened in the Midwest and this region of the country ever. I've had bad storms. Like I've had anything that's happened, I've seen before. I've had power outages before. I've had other things happen. I've never seen them where power goes out, Cody and the electric company all come out as an army, mind you, and come and fix everything, only to have another freaking wave knock it all down again, have them come out and fix it again. It's happened like 3 times in the last 3 weeks. So it's been chaotic. It's also been hot. It's also been stormy. Between hot and storms, if you want a perfect example, if you just Google Chicagoland Raceway 4th of July weekend, and you'll understand exactly what kind of weather we've been going through. I was at my niece's first year birthday party. Cody was able to get there. Cody missed the fun part, however, of me standing outside, holding a tent down, getting pelted by rain that had come through. And I had to spend the rest of the party being very, very wet. That was Friday. That's why I didn't do any tweeting of sprint qualifying. So we were out saving the nature of the party. Tents are fine. My niece had a lovely party. She was very happy. Everybody else came, had a good time. The weather actually got nice and sunny after the storm blew through. But that's the nature of the weather that's been around here. We're getting all the 4 seasons in a day. So apologies that we're not able to get these things out as quick as we like to. Life happens and throws us curveballs. So anyway, rant about that over. We're glad you're here. We're going to talk about the British Grand Prix. We're going to shift all of this to Formula One. And there is a ton that is going on in the Formula One world, both on, off the track. What can you believe? We're going to try to break some of it down. We're going to talk about a lot of things tonight. You can find our show on X or Twitter or whatever the hell they call that platform. I've been on it way too much in the last 48 hours for my liking. Instagram, Discord, Reddit, and of course here on YouTube at Outlap F1 Podcast is the handle for all of that. if you enjoy what we're talking about and you like what you're seeing, you can do us a solid on YouTube, click a like or a subscribe button. What is it? Like, subscribe, and comment for the algorithm, folks. You guys have been commenting. It's actually quite helped our traffic a little bit. So if you can keep doing that, tell us what we're doing good. Tell us where we can improve. I take everything in and go from there. A 5-star review on your favorite podcasting app, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, because we do post there, will also help our search results a bit. You can email the show, outlapf1@gmail.com. Thank you so much to Outlap F1 Nation, who continues to step up. You guys know the names, but we have some newer people in here too. Thank you so much. Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, Jonathan Scott, Rachel Fleming, who you will hear from later today, Dave Doherty, who you will also hear from later today, and Brandon Bowler for being awesome people and supporting the show. If you'd like to do that, we have a new link. It's called buymeacoffee.com/outlapf1. We are in the European season. Our sleep schedules are all screwed up anyway. I'm getting up at 4 in the morning to try to watch Formula 2, and then 9 in the morning to watch the F1 race. It's all crazy. We don't sleep. We need caffeine, dang it. So any type of donation you'd like to do from that link will be greatly, greatly appreciated, as always. All right, the particulars and the ranting about the weather out of the way. There's more ranting to come, I guarantee you. This one's going to be... Rachel Fleming told me specifically that I needed to breathe on this broadcast, so I'm going to do my best to heed her words as I talk. We'll start with our headlines of the day. Cody, I'll let you go first. What you got?
My headline of the day is that Charles Leclerc and George Russell had horseshoes up their asses on Sunday. You had George Russell looking like he was on track to finish 5th. And let's see here, a major issue for Kimi Antonelli, a trip to the gravel trap by Max Verstappen, and a pit stop where he came out just behind. And we didn't have a resumption of the race at the end, screwed Lewis Hamilton. So that gets George Russell all the way up 5th to 2nd. And Charles Leclerc looked like he was going to be chased down by Kimi Antonelli. That did not happen because Antonelli had that aforementioned trouble with his car, ends up finishing far outside the points. So Leclerc is able to hold on to the win.
All right. My headline of the day, I'm going to try to do my impression here. If you've ever seen the movie Rounders, there's the character of Teddy KGB, who's played by Oscar-winning actor John Malkovich. And at the end of the movie, as he's trying to bait Matt Damon into coming back and playing more poker with him. And he just keeps going, "It's so unsatisfying." And I think that is the tone that I heard in my head when safety car coming in and then safety car deployed at the end of that race came out. It was so unsatisfying in a lot of ways. It was a questionable ending. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get into it. It overshadowed what I think up to that point had been a fairly entertaining race. But that should not hide the fact that, for one thing, Charles Leclerc did get back into a groove that he hasn't seen and it's been a while since he's won a race. So the different contenders to the championship keep popping up. And despite the fact that Kimi Antonelli did not have himself a great day, he was on looking like he was going to have a great day, and then his car just kind of gave up on him. So that's now becoming a trend. That's more than once in a row. So, but we have a lot of sessions to talk about. The first thing we're going to talk about, we're going to go all the way back to sprint quali, which happened that Friday morning. I watched it, and then I had to bolt because I had to go basically the other side of town to get to my niece's birthday party.
Yeah, it feels like a year ago.
I know. I mean,
me.
It's crazy. But that sprint qualifying saw P22 and P21. If you want to talk about the struggle bus, Rachel Fleming calls it the milk cart. You can call it whatever you want. The Aston Martin. Boy, I'll have a telling stat for you about Aston Martin later that'll just kind of tell you how bad this is. But P22 and P21 were Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso, respectively. P20 was Valtteri Bottas, and P19 was Sergio Perez. The Cadillacs, better, but not all that much better. P18, was Esteban Ocon. P17, Ali Behrman. P16, Alex Albon. P15, Carlos Sainz. P14, Franco Colapinto. P13 was Nico Hulkenberg. 12 was Gabby Bortoletto. P11 was Pierre Gasly. P10, Arvid Lindblad. P9 was Liam Lawson. P8, Isaac Hadjar. P7, Oscar Piastri. P6, Lando Norris, defending race winner. That's all he could do in the first qualifying session of the weekend. P5 was George Russell, a bit of a struggle for him here. That was a surprise. P4, Charles Leclerc. P3, Max Verstappen. P2, Kimi Antonelli. And P1 told everybody, look out for this guy at this track, Lewis Hamilton, in the Ferrari, coming to Silverstone on a mission. 128.376 the lap time. A heck of an impressive effort, if you ask me. Cody, big thoughts here in the sprint quali.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this was probably a pretty popular session over in Great Britain. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton lighting it up, taking pole position, had the crowd, going nuts. And very exciting, too, because we're kind of in that weird, is Ferrari going to be able to mount any kind of challenge or not stage right now? Because, you got Lewis Hamilton race, and then last week they didn't look so good, and now Lewis is back on pole, so we're still trying to figure out how strong contenders they actually are. But it was really fun to see him back at the front again.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he definitely had the goods coming his way. It was kind of one of those sessions. I didn't really get a chance to watch his particular lap. I was very focused on my two boys who, again, and this is going to be kind of a recurring theme, at least for the McLarens, very scruffy sessions. In fact, Lando Norris almost doesn't make it out of SQ2. I think it was like 1/10 of a second or something. He was away. He suffered damage on his first Q3 or his first SQ1 run that limited his downforce. The McLaren mechanics were able to then fix the car, but that didn't really help him out because the car, in his opinion, had a completely different feeling. He was like, why didn't you fix it earlier in the session where I could have figured out the car? I thought I had more in the lap time, but only good enough for sixth. I thought Max Verstappen coming into it with a car that he was not necessarily liking, dragging it to P3, I thought was impressive. The surprise for me was George Russell all the way down in P5. You would have thought he would have been coming in with all of the momentum from Austria and the win there. That was a bit of a shocker to me that he was only good enough for P5. Guys on the struggle bus is kind of the ones we kind of always would expect to see. The two Cadillacs in the back, the two Aston Martins in the way back, and the two Haas's. And it just feels like, again, we're in that same, this is the Haas cycle. They start out really well. They don't have any development budget, and it's definitely killing them right now, despite Ali Behrman trying to drag the car wherever he can. But yeah, that's how they lined up on the Friday running. It was interesting that the medium tires and the soft tire, there was definitely a bit of a delta there. So I think for overall, but it was one run and you're kind of done. It always kind of surprises me that they try to do two runs on the medium, but nobody was able to try to do a second run at all on the soft. But that's kind of how that fell. And Lewis takes the pole. All right. So we will flip the script over to Saturday morning and the sprint race itself. And that saw, we'll just take you through the order here. P22 was Sergio Perez. P21 was Lance Stroll. P20, Fernando Alonso. P19, Valtteri Bottas. P18, Alex Albon. P17, Carlos Sainz. P16 was Esteban Ocon. P15 was Nico Hulkenberg. P14, Ali Behrman. P13 was Gabby Bortoleto. P12 was Franco Colapinto. P11 was Pierre Gasly. P10, Arvid Lindblad. P9 was Isaac Hadjar. P8, Liam Lawson, so he was the first person to get points. P7 was Oscar Piastri. P6 was Max Verstappen. P5, Charles Leclerc. P4 was George Russell. P3 was Lando Norris. P2 was Lewis Hamilton. And in P1, championship leader hits back big time, at least early on, Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes. A race, I thought, of different groups battling for different positions. But Cody, how'd you see it?
I thought it would have been more entertaining if Lewis Hamilton was able to bring home the win. It looked like maybe it was possible for a little while, but then Kimi Antonelli did what he's been doing all season, which is go really, really fast, and made it look not easy, but like it was inevitable. So Kimi Antonelli definitely still the faster of the two Mercedes drivers, pretty much up to this point in the season. Let's see here. Red Bull looking like they were pretty on the back foot at this point because Max Verstappen goes back 3 places. Charles Leclerc definitely looking a lot more uncomfortable than Hamilton at this point in the weekend. And George Russell, same thing. Definitely not looking as strong as Antonelli.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a race of groups. I think Lewis and Kimi Antonelli were kind of in the front two for the challenge for the sprint win. Lewis got off the line a lot better than Kimi did, and Lewis was actually in the lead for the first 7 or 8 laps, and then that Mercedes overall pace, the bigger turbo, all of it that you want to say, the slightly more efficient chassis still maybe at this point too, just kind of came out, and Antonelli gets Lewis fought it valiantly for a couple things, but it is only a sprint race, so you're not going to expect these guys to be going completely balls to the walls at this point. Kimi was able to get the move done and gets by. Lewis tried to hold and stay within that overtake zone. Really wasn't able to mount a challenge after that. P3, Lando Norris actually kind of had a very quiet race after the start, but he actually did get a really nice start and gets past 3 different cars. He gets past Russell, Leclerc, and Verstappen off the line and led. And at one point even got past Antonelli for P2. Antonelli then got passed right around him. It was kind of the return of the yo-yo racing that we kind of saw early on in the season. I thought this was really the first time we saw some of that, but I wonder if that was really more just the effect of the drivers who hadn't really they had the one practice session and then obviously the sprint quali, but this was the first time to really kind of test what the cars would do in race conditions. This is an energy-starved circuit. It is one where the onboards, especially during the qualifying sessions, were a little tough to watch because you expect cars to be running around maggots, Beckett's, and they just kind of really weren't in some of those corners, those high-speed corners that you're so used to here at Silverstone. It just wasn't there. That having been said, I thought it was a relatively entertaining sprint, but once it kind of calmed down, we had the big, like I said, the 2 groups were Hamilton and Antonelli in the front, and then the battle for P4 was Russell, Leclerc, and Max, who all went out for it and had that position at one point or another, and it ends up being Russell who ends up the victor of it. He was chasing down Lando. He ends up basically a second and a half adrift of Lando at the end, but unable to catch him. Kind of annoying for my side that Oscar Piastri couldn't get in that fight, despite the fact that there was some going back and forth between those 3. I think the result flattered Lando. Honestly, I don't know that they were there on pure pace, but if everybody else is going to try to run into each other a little bit, you might as well take advantage. So I was happy about that. But any other big thoughts here in the sprint?
No, this was when I was in the thick of work. I watched like a couple laps of it and was like, okay, I don't have time now. So yeah, unfortunately, this is probably the one that I remember the least about.
All right. Well, it's only for a third of the points, so we can kind of leave the sprint
Sure.
there, and we'll move on into main qualifying, which happened later on in the day. Teams were able to break park for May, make setup changes as they like. How would that affect anything? And the answer, if you're in the Aston Martins, it didn't. P22 and P21, respectively, are Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll yet again. P20 was Sergio Perez. P19 was Franco Colapinto. P18 was Valtteri Bottas. P17 was Esteban Ocon. P16 was Alex Albon. P15 was Carlos Sainz. P14 sees Ollie Behrman. P13 was Nico Hulkenberg. P12 was Pierre Gasly. P11, Gabby Bortoleto. P10, Liam Lawson. P9, Arvid Lindblad. P8, Oscar Piastri, 1 step down on his sprint quali effort. P7, Max Verstappen, definitely not a happy bunny at the end of that session for sure. P6, Lando Norris, Same deal. Very scrappy qualifying, makes it in there, but not enough to basically challenge the top 5. P5, I thought one of the better stars of this qualifying session was Isaac Hadjar. Other Red Bull seat coming to play. P4 was George Russell in the Mercedes. P3, Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari. P2 was Charles Leclerc. We're getting that inevitability thing with Kimi Antonelli. Here it comes yet again, but he manages to pull it out again. We thought it was going to be the 2 Ferraris. It was not. It is Kimi Antonelli on the pole, a 1:28.111 Euro lap time. Cody, big thoughts here in main qualifying.
Antonelli continuing to look very strong, looking like he's on the best form that he's got right now. He's pretty much topping or very near the top every competitive session, and he continues that here. A big surprise for me is that Isaac Hadjar actually outqualifies Max Verstappen, and Hadjar actually looked pretty good in both qualifying sessions. I think he was kind of keeping ahead of Max in the sprint qualifying up until the end, and then he outdid Max here in the regular qualifying. Max looking very uncomfortable in the car, not happy over the radio, a little bummed out at this point, thinking that Antonelli was just going to waltz away with it. But Charles Leclerc definitely looking on better form, starting with this session. He gets all the way up to the front row. Finally figuring out whatever magic Hamilton's been working in that car over the first part of the year. And yeah, definitely looking more competitive at this point.
Yeah, I mean, same theme again for the 2 McLarens as I would say was the sprint qualifying. Very scrappy sessions. They get through, but just barely. Lando Norris again, P10 in Q2, just barely makes it. Oscar Piastri having to use an extra set of fresh tires in Q1 to not get eliminated in P16 at one point. That was actually a thing as well. So it was a very scrappy qualifying from that perspective. You mentioned Isaac Hadjar showing up and looking pretty good. I almost can, I want to say we can start to close the book on the second seat thing, because it looks like that's the guy. At least so far this season, he's been fairly consistent. When he's been good, he's been really good. And he hasn't had the same fall off as some of his predecessors have had. Granted, we're only maybe 40% through this season or 35% through this season. So there's still a lot of races to go. But I think if you're a Red Bull fan, you have to be, I think, cautiously optimistic that maybe you finally found the second guy in that seat, at least for now.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to think of the right way to say it. He's got some spunk that I feel like some of the previous drivers haven't really had to them. After they competed a couple seasons against Max Verstappen, Hadjar looks like he's really trying to stick with it, and he's a young guy. He's got a lot of time to get there, so hopefully just keeps on improving.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about 3/10 to Max. If this is one of those occasions where he actually beat Max, and that doesn't happen very often. So you almost you got to mention it when it does happen. But I think at the front, the 2 Ferraris again, I think looking very strong on qualifying pace. Leclerc is one of those Mr. Saturday guys who can sometimes put out a lap that kind of comes from nowhere. That seemed to kind of be the case. You were thinking it was going to be Antonelli versus Hamilton again, and you got Leclerc inserting himself into it. But Antonelli just at the end, man, again, just that little pace advantage, just that little bit. And definitely way over his teammate. 3/10 on his teammate, George Russell. This was, again, a surprise to me where I was just expecting him to ride that wave and hook up the car. And this is a track he knows really well. Just not quite able to be there on pure pace in the qualifying session. All right. Well, that set the stage for Sunday. And I think we're just going to kind of handle Sunday by kind of talking about everything kind of at once, because if you start with the back markers, you have to talk about the end. And so we're going to run you through the field, and then we'll just kind of take you through our thoughts on the race itself. So your non-classified finishers are Nico Hulkenberg in the Audi, managing to go 36 laps, and Alex Albon in the Williams, who had some contact early and manages to go 43 laps and goes no further. The big story of the British Grand Prix, in my opinion, is the off that Max Verstappen had coming down to a problem with the Macarena wing. This is the second time now. Red Bull have actually admitted that the spin-off in Austria was caused by the Macarena wing not closing when it was expected to close. And Max thinks it happened again here. It was turn 15 right in front of the Lando Norris grandstand. And he goes off and into the gravel and ruined what would otherwise have been a very strong day for him. He was on for a podium here, legitimately on pace, and it just happens not to work out because of the spin there. P19 and P18, this flatters the two Aston Martins, in my opinion. Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso, only one lap down. That's flattering in a lot of ways. I'll explain why when we get to awards. Oh my gosh. P17 was Carlos Sainz, P16 Valtteri Bottas, P15, the other big story, Kimi Antonelli, the car literally breaking down while he was on the track. The steering shield or something broke and got itself into the brake duct, and that screwed up all the aero. He had himself a very scrappy last few laps. He was trying so desperately to get a point. He ends up running afoul of the track limit violations, gets himself a 5-second penalty. And that, because of how this race ended, which we are going to talk about, ends up knocking him completely out of the points and all the way down to P15. P14, the benefactor of all this chaos, is Sergio Perez in the Cadillac. And P13 was Esteban Ocon. Doesn't equal points, but it's a good finish for those two teams. P12 was Ali Behrman. P11, contact early, causing his front wing to get damaged. He comes into the pits on lap 1, manages to scrap his way through all the way back to P11, but he does not get any points for his effort, is Oscar Piastri in the McLaren. P10, Pierre Gasly, and P9, Franco Colapinto come home in the points and get double points for the Alpine squad. That was, I think, a bit of a surprise, especially given the quali form. P8 was Gabby Bortoleto in the Audi. This is probably your biggest non-power team surprise, I think. Audi getting some good points here. P7 was Arvid Lindblad, the law firm of Lindblad and Lawson. P7 and P6 taking advantage of the unreliability of some others. P5, Isaac Hadjar, a solid finish for him, especially given the quali form. P4 was Lando Norris. I think this result probably flatters him, especially where his pace was, but I'll take it. P3 ends up being Lewis Hamilton. We will talk about why it's not P2, because he probably should have been. P2 ends up being George Russell, who did a spin at the roulette wheel and hit the number. I think that's basically all you can say. And P1, I don't think this was in doubt until it was in doubt until the Antonelli car failure, but the whole thing at the end of the race doesn't affect how the race was going to be won. Charles Leclerc was far enough in front to secure the win, and he then does so. Coming home under safety car. So all of these gaps mean absolutely nothing because of how the race ended, because apparently it takes 6 laps one of the longest tracks ever on the Formula One calendar to clear a car in the gravel. That's issue number 1. Issue number 2 is we had yet another example of a late race safety car call that gets completely botched by the FIA. That they're doing something, you look at what they're doing, and you think you know what they're doing, and then right at the end, whoops, safety car redeployed at the end when they had done all of the things to get ready for a one-lap shootout. All of the drivers had done all the things to get ready for a one-lap shootout. We've had one-lap shootouts before, and then, whoopsie, you were all mistaken. Software glitch. That was the best part of the whole thing, was the explanation. It's a software glitch. I don't believe that for a second, but anyway, Cody, where do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, I would say most of the drama for this race happened in like the last, 20%?
Yeah, I would agree.
Of the race. But we can go all the way back to the beginning, which kind of set the stage for a lot of this. Charles Leclerc gets a great start off the line, goes right into the lead. In fact, Kimi Antonelli loses a few positions, I believe. So you end up with a Ferrari 1-2 at the start of the race, and Antonelli looking like he's going to have to already fight back. And the race was not like having too much going on after that for a little while. I mean, there's strategy battles, and you got Max Verstappen somehow, like you were saying before, managing to fight his way into what looked like a podium position. And then, all hell breaks loose in those last however many laps. You've got Antonelli, who's just got some really rotten luck with vehicle reliability at the moment. If you look at pretty much all the competitive sessions or all the the race sessions that we've had so far, if it wasn't for reliability issues, Antonelli would have podiumed every race so
easy.
far this year, and every Spirit race, I think. So he gets screwed again. He goes over a curb. It somehow breaks the wheel shield. And like you said,
I didn't even know that existed. I now learned what a wheel shield was because it broke.
His issue was he could not turn the car. So he had pit. They didn't see the wheel shield issue right away, so he has to come back into the pits. The team was telling him he should retire the car, and he was like, "No, I want to fight for the points." But as you also said before, he ends up with that time penalty, which I think is maybe a little bit of bullshit because he's running afoul of track limits because he can't turn the car. But at the same time, if you can't turn the car, you probably shouldn't be still going in a competitive manner anyway.
It's that Leclerc from Miami lap from a few races ago where his car was visibly broken and the only way he could try to finish was to cut every corner, and somehow managed, because he was still in the points. I think he came home 7th on the road, and they looked at it and said, yeah, no, we're not going to let that happen. And it was kind of the same situation. Now, you can have a debate whether or not track limits should really apply when a car is disabled, but then there's the other rule that says if your car is kind of disabled, you really shouldn't be driving it. And if you're admitting that your car is effed up, that becomes a problem, because then we've seen drivers get much worse for that. So it really just kind of took care of itself with the track limit thing, and I think that's probably why they let it go, because it wasn't visibly bad. And then, I don't know, what boggles me is they came in and did the first pit stop, and I don't think they knew what was wrong. Even at Mercedes, they clearly didn't, because they changed the wing, and somehow the wing change went around the wheel shield, which was screwing up the brake duct. So then he goes back out, and it's still the same problem, despite a brand new wing. And then when they finally brought him in the second time, and this wheel shield had gotten itself lodged in a really sensitive spot, because I watched the mechanic when he came in the second time, he had to rip it off to get it off of there. And that restores some of it, but then his car is obviously compromised. After the second repair, he was showing competitive laps, but it was the journey to get back to the pits and not retire that caused the 3 offs. And that's the automatic 5-second penalty. And when you have a race end under safety car, unlike some 5-second penalties, which you can kind of burn off or deal with, and it doesn't kill your race result, when a race ends under a safety car, it murders it. So he was 10th, and now he's 15th.
Yep. So bad end of the race for Antonelli, despite the fact that he was, after having that rough start, in that stint, making huge gains into Leclerc's lead. So this was the first horseshoe. This one was up both George's and Leclerc's butt, because this lets Leclerc, lets him stay able to hold on to the victory. And George has his biggest competition for the championship retire from the race, which is super big deal. Antonelli had the measure of George all weekend, so George really lucks out there. Next horseshoe is Max Verstappen working wonders in a Red Bull that he is not very comfortable with, on track for podium, can't hold on all the way to the end of the race, goes off into the gravel trap, like I said, possibly due to the Macarenoing issue creeping in again. Either way, Max really not happy that he's out of the race there. George moves up another spot. And I, at this point, was thinking that my weekend was just going to keep getting worse forever. And the last horseshoe for George is what happens at the very end of the race. You have the safety car caused by Max going off.
Now, at this point, there's 5 laps to go. This is lap 47.
And I'm looking at this. They got the safety car, and I'm like, I don't know if they're going to be able to get it going again. And most drivers pit for fresh tires. You saw it coming with Lewis because
that was his only shot at a win. I mean, he was going to go out for the win, and you knew that.
And I think Leclerc at that point, he had a gap.
I mean, he was the first one to come in, and that started the whole sequence.
So Lewis thinks he's got a chance here to fight for victory. The only way he's really going to get that chance is by pitting for fresh tires. George gambles on it here. He stays out. He's pretty much like the only guy that stays out. And he comes out, Lewis comes out of the pits just behind George. So George manages to get that track position. And the final nail in the coffin is that the race ends up finishing under safety car, even though we were all teased real hard.
Even though
that makes it easy for Leclerc to hold on to the win, and George manages to get second place out of all this. Goes pretty much all the way from 5th to 2nd.
So let's just open up our rule book for a minute and let's go through our safety car procedures, because it's kind of an important thing as to what happened. And then the glitch that happened in the system, which just makes it all look even more stupid. Because the way that you work is the track has to be declared clear. Lapped traffic has to get out of the way, which in this case means has to pass the safety car. We all know that. There were several lapped cars. There was lots of laps. There's half the field was basically 1 lap down. There were a few drivers, the Aston Martins and Carlos Sainz. Well, Carlos Sainz ends up a lap down for a whole different reason. We will have to come back to that because we're making shit up again with that one. But anyway, everybody else now that was 2 laps down could be 1 lap down. They all get to pass, and they do that. They are not obligated to wait for those lap cars to come around and reform the queue. There have been races where I've seen where it's been restarted, where those lap cars, they get their lap back, but they're still half a lap down. For whatever reason, Burt Mylander in the safety car is slowing way down, so it looks like we're getting all of the stuff done. Now, granted, I don't know why it took 4 laps of safety car to get Max out of the gravel, but that's Marshall's. They're doing the best they can. I'm not going to fault those guys. Or the crane or whatever happened. For whatever reason, it took a while to get the track clear. But it looked like we were all set for safety car to come in. We get the notification, safety car coming in this lap. Everybody's getting ready. It's a 1-lap shootout on soft tires. George Russell's looking behind him going, oh my God. And then within the next second on the timing screen, safety car redeployed. And everybody's looking at each other like, well, wait a minute, what happened? Was there a new hazard on the track? Did something else happen? Did somebody else have it off? Nope, everybody looks good on timing. And now the safety car has gone past the part where it could go into the pits. We start the last lap, and we're done. The explanation that we were given 15 minutes or so after the race end is that the safety car never should have been allowed to end, and that graphic was the result of a, air quote, software glitch. Yet, Burt Mylander slowed way the F down to let all the lap traffic get out of the way and all that other stuff. You didn't see that, folks. It was a software glitch. We all back into our rule book if we go into our rule book where you know that they want to have the lapped cars get out of the way and then we do a lap. Because we couldn't do the lap, the safety car is then required then to stay out. That's the official explanation as given. And as I said earlier, it is so unsatisfying a way to end what would have been a probably really good finish, because you would have imagined Lewis would have fully deployed his entire battery. Lando got on a set of soft tires at the end from 4th place, trying to probably go for a podium. George would have been a sitting duck. No offense to George, but he had a bit of bad luck earlier in the race with a slow puncture that forced him to do an extra stop. That's why he was back there in the first place. But he's not really deserving of a P2 if you really think about it on merit. But he benefits from it because the safety car can't come in because of all of the piles of stuff that happened again at the end of a race.
Yeah, I was, for this last little bit here, I was literally like, had my phone on my desk and was like arched over like this, wondering what was going to happen. And I was just as stunned as the commentators. They're like, it's not coming in. And I was like, what do you mean it's not coming in? It says it's ending.
Like they turn the lights off and then turn them back on.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's a software glitch, that's really, one hell of a glitch.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it was. But they can use whatever excuse they want. It was definitely, in that way, a very disappointing ending. Now, if you're a Charles Leclerc fan, it's fantastic because he gets his first win in a very long time. He did not win at all last season. So it has been a while, and I'm sure he's feeling much more confident now. He has had a little bit of a rough first portion of the season, being outshone by Lewis Hamilton for the first time, but made a great comeback today. And to his credit, except for the part where Kimi Antonelli was like really chasing him down, he was in control of the race.
I know. I thought he
pretty much led the whole thing.
We would have seen a fight, I think, for the win. I think Antonelli was going to get there. I think he got the gap down to within 3.5 seconds. At one point, it was way down after the various pit stops. But Leclerc is a deserving winner of this race. I am not challenging that at all. The benefactor of all this was George Russell, who just decided to play Russian roulette and won by not coming into the pits when everybody else did. So, it's more. When we get to awards, I will talk about some of my feelings on the ending a little bit more because I have more. But I don't buy the whole software glitch explanation. And if that is what's happened, it's a massive, stupid thing that happened again in 2026. And let's just add that to, in Monaco, we can't do timing and scoring. We can't measure time over distance. We still don't know the result of the Monaco GP, mind you, because that's still on appeal. We're going to get that result sometime around the summer break, I've been told. My bet still is Christmas. But anyway, it's just kind of maddening that we end up in a place of we find new and interesting ways to not do what we all expect things to happen in 2026. It's just weird. Just a weird place. Anyway, we'll talk about it when we get to awards. That's it for now. Any other big thoughts on, I can kind of say, I think, again, P4 probably flattered Lando Norris's overall result. From my perspective, it was, again, a race where they didn't really have a whole ton of pace. They were there. They weren't losing to anybody. They had minutes of where they had good pace, but they got to find some more go fast bits to put on that car, and they got to do it quickly. Otherwise, I think this is just kind of where they're at. They are solidly the 3rd or 4th fastest car right now, and it's just they can't do anything. They can't build any confidence in the car. It just kind of sucks. I actually texted you and felt really bad for Max here because I thought he had driven himself a really good race. He wanted to start. There was an interview he did just before he gets in the car that he wanted to start the race from the pit lane. And they told him no, because he was still in 7th. And he dragged that car, not happy with it from the beginning, from 7th to 3rd, struggling with it the whole way, but doing Max Verstappen things with it. And then to have it end up because the actuator on the Macarena wing failed, or supposedly failed. That hasn't necessarily been confirmed, but that's what Max thought it was. And then you hear the message. He was not a happy bunny, and he tossed the steering wheel, and it went to flying. So Given a lot of the off-track rumblings and grumblings, it does nothing more than fuel all of that when Max does those types of things. We'll talk a little bit about that later. I have more thoughts on that. But anywho, that's your British Grand Prix. We're going to take a quick break. We'll re-rack. We will tell you what this did to all of the points. It does get closer at the top. If you are a fan of getting this championship closer, that was a good race for you. We'll talk about where it is for the drivers, where for the constructors. We'll then open it up to your thoughts on the weekend in the fan email segment. We've got our contributors here. We'll hand out some awards. I will try to breathe as I get through some of them. But we will talk about all that. And then we'll we've got a week off before Belgium. And that's the Belgian Grand Prix. Spa-Francorchamps is awaiting. We'll start to preview that in a little bit. Come on back. I guarantee you will not want to miss it.
You are listening to the Outlap F1 podcast, and we'll be right back after this quick pit stop. Grab your flu powder, broomstick, or apparate to your favorite audio streaming service to join the discussion on Hogwarts, a podcast, where Dan and his friends have in-depth chapter-by-chapter breakdowns of each Harry Potter novel. Join the group as they dive into the magical world and discuss plot points, analyze character development, and occasionally go off the rails. Whether you're a muggle who's new to the series or a pure-blood wizard who won't need a remember-all, Hogwarts, a podcast, brings everyone to the Great Hall for a magical discussion. Hogwarts, a podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, folks, welcome back on in. This is Season 8, Episode number 14 of the Outlap F1 podcast. It's our 2026 British Grand Prix review show. Got Andy. I am along with Cody tonight. I appreciate you staying up and getting our recording in. I know it has been a week and a half for you in the last week, sir. So most appreciative that you give me someone to talk to, because I don't really like talking to myself. Anyway, what did this race do to the standings in your Formula One World Championship? Cody, if you take the drivers, I will handle the teams.
All right. So Kimi Antonelli still in the lead for the Drivers' Championship. He scores good points in the sprint, but no points in the Grand Prix. So Kimi Antonelli sitting at 179 points. George Russell, his teammate, ended up capitalizing quite well on opportunities he was given throughout this weekend. So George ends up making some gains into Antonelli. He is at 154 points. So now exactly one Grand Prix win race distance from the lead. Reliability could really play a big part going forward here. Lewis Hamilton ends up scoring some pretty good points this weekend as well. He's in third place at 147. So only a few points behind George here. It could have been pretty much right there had that safety car fiasco not happened. Charles Leclerc, big winner here. Fourth place for Ferrari at 108 points. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri in fifth and sixth place for McLaren at 97 and 82 points each. Max Verstappen, another big loser from this weekend. Does not score very many points at all. A little bit in the sprint, I believe. Nothing in the Grand Prix. Seventh place for Max at 76 points. Isaac Hadjar ends up having, I would say, a pretty decent weekend. Ends up capitalizing on all the people who retired in front of him as well. So he gets some decent points. He's at 52 points. Pierre Gasly in ninth for Alpine. I think he ended up getting a point this weekend because of pretty much similarly to George, kind of stumbling into the points there because of luck, but it works out. Gasly gets a point. He's at 42 now. And then 10th place, rounded up with Liam Lawson, currently the better scorer of the two very competitive Racing Bulls drivers. And he's sitting at 39 points.
Yeah, your top 8 are basically your top 4 in the constructors. If you look at the teams, it is 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 all the way down through the top 4 here in the constructors. Mercedes, no surprise here, continue to lead the constructor battle. They are up to 333 points on the season. P2, very solidly now, P2 is Ferrari. They are up to 255 on the season. P3 is McLaren. They check in with 179 points on the year. P4 is Red Bull Racing. They are up to 128 points. P5 is Alpine, having a solid first half of the season, definitely for them versus where they've been. Up to 60 points on the year. P6, Racing Bulls. Definitely now a contender for that P5, only 1 point behind and looking good doing it. Points in the last 3 races for sure, and the best of the rest. And taking advantage of of some others' misfortunes, up to 59 points. P5 battle definitely on there. A bit of a gap to P7. That is where Haas check in. They are on 21 points. P8 is Williams on 11 points. P9, Audi up to 6 points, thanks to Gabby Bortoletto's effort here. P10, Aston Martin. Yes, the Fernando Alonso in Monaco point keeps them in P10. 1 point clear of Cadillac, who have yet to get off the mark here. They still check in with 0 points on the season. All right. Well, you've heard our takes on the British Grand Prix and the ending. What do you guys have to say about this race? It's our fan email segment. We've got our regular contributors here. We start off with Rachel Fleming. Cody, what does she have to say?
All right. Thank you, Rachel, for your email. And Rachel says, well, that was the British Grand Prix. Charles has been the unluckiest driver in recent years. My God, he lucked out today. So much went in his favor, but he did nothing wrong as well. So I am really happy that he won. But I don't like how it finished. You're not alone there. I am the biggest follow the rules type person, but this seemed a little odd, or a bit, odd. I know my man George was the big benefactor, but the viewers lost out there. Speaking of George, who put the pin in that tire causing the slow puncture? My money is on Yas. Pretty good. Personally, I understand the reasoning of Kimi staying out, but the mileage of the engine was another thing. Mistake from Mercedes in the end. Perez watch, he finished ahead of a Mercedes. What a result. Yes, I do know why, Lil. Audi watch, all of the bad luck is hitting Nico this season, but Bortoletto got points. 8th on merit. I guess kind of 8th on luck and merit. They really do love this track, and I suppose I will have to do this Alonso watch. At one point, Alonso was 38 seconds behind Bottas. That's not even GP2 engine. That is a Formula One lawnmower. I can't even call that Aston a milk cart anymore, as the milk cart will be insulted. Yes.
The milk has gone sour at Aston Martin. Oh, my.
I was hearing something, too, about that. They were talking about track limit violations, and I guess Lance Stroll had some insane number of track limit violations.
He got like 5 different 5-second penalties or something added to his time. Oh, and the other thing, the other part, we didn't even get a chance to talk about it. The after the race stuff, the air quote yellow flag infringements for both Lewis Hamilton, which was a thing, and Carlos Sainz. The FIA has decided that whatever Carlos Sainz did, it was so bad that they parked him for a lap without parking him for a lap. They literally added 1 lap to his race time for a yellow flag infringement, and that is why he shows up, according to the official scoring, in P17, down 1 lap despite finishing under the safety car where he actually got his lap back.
Yes, I guess I don't really know the technicalities of it, but I guess he unlapped himself when he wasn't supposed to unlap himself. So the stewards just decided, you weren't supposed to have that lap back, so let's just tack it back on with a 1 lap penalty, which is a bit of an odd one. Haven't seen one of those before.
No, that's a new one. I've watched a lot of. I've never seen that one. I've seen stop goes. I've seen 10-second stop goes. I've seen black flags before, where they just park you. I've never seen plus 1 lap. That's a new one.
Good. That was a weird one. George definitely got unlucky with the slow puncture. So he probably would have been on better pace than he seemed like he was at the end of the race. But yeah, as we talked about, he definitely lucked out. So did Charles. And yeah, none of us liked how that ended. We were all looking forward to our last lap shootout and hopefully seeing Lewis Hamilton actually get the good side of that this time. But alas, this time he got what he wanted the first time, which was for it to just end. And we were all wishing for more.
Yeah, I mean the part of and I will rant on this in a little bit. And Rachel, I'm still breathing, by the way. The thing that bothers me about the end is the fact that nobody knew what was going on. Like, yeah, the pits are open, but it shouldn't be. And I've said this for years. I'll say it again. I'll bring this up again. If you had an FIA document at every event, call it document 2. Like document 1 is welcome to the event. Here's all your competitors. Document 2 should be end of race safety car chart that says from lap and count it back from lap 10 or whatever the distance is in the last 10% of a race. However you want to do it. From lap 10 to lap 5, if there is an incident that requires a safety car, we follow normal procedures. Same like the rest of the race. I think everybody can agree to that. If the FIA want to say, we prioritize getting a race done under green flag conditions, or at least making an attempt at it, I think every fan can accept that. But what then needs to happen is we have to say, from lap 4 till the second to last lap, we're going to red flag this thing. And then the other rule that they have to fix is the red flag thing where they let everybody change their tires. Like maybe that doesn't apply in this case. You can apply it for the rest of the race, or you just get rid of that rule entirely. I think if you
I don't know. I actually think the rule would have been okay there because, if what we saw in the safety car is really everyone who was able to pit was going to pit.
Would
So
have
at
done
least
it.
if you, still have the ability to change tires under
Okay.
the red flag conditions, then everyone's on the same.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. I was thinking of some other ways to maybe do it with how you modify the restart procedures, but I don't want to get this overcomplicated. I want to keep it simple. From lap 4 to the end of that, we're going to red flag the race if there's a safety car out there. We're going to stop the race. We're going to let everybody do whatever they're going to do. We're going to set it up so that we have a legitimate attempt. We're not going to add laps. We're not going to do what NASCAR does, which is a green-white checker and add laps because we don't have refueling and all that other stuff. So everybody, therefore, knows what we're going to do so that the strategy call can be a correct call. It's not a shot in the dark. George, I know Rachel's a big George fan, and he totally benefited from this. But he could have also finished in 8th or worse had they managed to get this thing going again with that kind of call. I don't like things that the drivers can't control. You cannot control how long it takes for Max Verstappen's car to get out of the gravel. For whatever reason, it took 4 laps. I don't know why. So let's try to figure out a way so that we all know what's going to happen. So we all agree that this is what we want to have happen, right? So the fans know it, commentators can explain it, everybody can get on board with what it is. And it solves all of this uncertainty, which is, I think, the thing that drives me as a fan the craziest. It's the uncertainty. I don't know what's going to happen at the end of a race. Maybe they get the thing cleared enough to do a 1-lap shootout. We've had red flags with 1-lap shootouts. We've had races end under safety cars, and nobody knows why. And I can't tell you from one incident to the next what's going to happen.
Yeah, it is definitely out there. They need to at least try to be just like a little bit more consistent.
Right.
Other things that you got here, Rachel, definitely agree with the Aston Martin lawnmower. And that got me thinking, I think Aston Martin is actually missing out on a good sponsorship opportunity here. The car is already green. Just call up John Deere. They'll understand. And, you'll get some laughs out of this very difficult time.
There was a Sky Sports bit where they had Kimi Räikkönen a while ago actually racing lawnmowers. I wonder if they would do something similar with Fernando and Lance. And did you also notice? Oh, by the way, before the race, I don't know if you got a chance to see it. They brought the Lego go-karts back.
I heard a little bit about it. I heard that Fernando Alonso was taking it very seriously.
Yes, he was. He was taking it incredibly seriously, and he ended up actually winning that race. So Fernando Alonso has won a race in 2026. As if you would expect anything different.
I guess so. I mean, it was the best shot he had at a race win this year. So yes,
it was like the year. It reminds me of the year, the horrible McLaren Honda year, the first 2015 year. They used to have, and I don't know if they still do it, at the Canadian Grand Prix. They used to have the rowboat race on the canal, and each of the teams would get into this rowboat. And because McLaren literally had an Olympian in Oscar Piastri's race engineer in the rowboat, they won the race. And it was the big thing. McLaren have won a race for the first time all season. So you take them where you get them, I guess.
Yeah, you gotta enjoy it any way that you can. I'm sure Aston Martin is embarrassed with what they've got out on track. So, you got to try to roll with the punches a little bit there. Thank you, Rachel, for your email. Our next one comes in from David Doherty. Thank you, Dave. And he says, hi, team. That was a big surprise. So the Mercedes versus Ferrari is on. I'm happy to see that. Huge congratulations to Leclerc for the win. I'm pleased for him. My boy had too much pizza at Silverstone. My boy is still a legend. I'm happy with F1 right now. Mm-hmm. And what were your thoughts on the battery thing? And I think Leclerc did his signs from what Sainz did at Great Britain in 22. Your thoughts on the McLaren livery? That was something we didn't even really talk about during the preview, was that McLaren had a special livery for this one.
Lots
Honestly,
of teams did. But
I thought it looked really nice. I thought the McLaren one looked really nice. Something strange that I did notice at a couple of points during the race was if you're looking at them head on and the sun is in the right place, they look just like the Mercedes. So I was very confused at a few points in the race, being like, who the hell is that? It's like, at least like with Red Bull's special liveries, it still looks like a Red Bull. It's just got, most of the time, it's just got some little bit of different stuff going on, but it's kind of got the same colors. McLaren definitely does some weird ones where the colors on the car are completely different. So not really any orange on it this time out. So I spent a lot of time being like, where are they actually?
Yeah, it was a harken back to like one of their original liveries when Bruce was actually driving it. And it's also the other thing you got to remember, even with specialty liveries, is it's the sponsors that dictate what the colors are. And that was sponsored very much by the Google and the Gemini thing. They were the same ones that allowed it to be silver a couple times last year. They ran it a couple times in 2024 as well. So, but I think they always do a good job with it. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of the 1000th one, if I'm being completely honest. To me, the Gulf Blue will always live in my heart, hence why I've got the entire kit of that. Yeah. I don't know that you're ever going to beat that because that thing was awesome. And but I think they tend to do a good job. I like it when they harken back to the silver. That's always the thing. I just wish that they had better results in it. But, that's just my thoughts on it.
Yep. I'm not sure. Do you know what battery thing Dave's referring to?
My guess is it's how was the battery, because this was an energy starved track. This is not an easy track. We were kind of talking about it in the break. And there are certain corners where the cars really did struggle. Beckett's, I think specifically. I thought at the end of the hangar straight, especially on the onboards, where you normally expect to see the car dive into that corner, into that long right-hander, it looked like at certain points the onboards that there was like a cane out trying to like grab the car at the back and pull it back when it would go from straight mode to cornering mode. It's just kind of what we've got. I mean, they've done as many tweaks as they can do. We're just going to kind of have to grin and bear it. We were also talking about how the next couple of races, Spa specifically, it's probably going to look worse in Spa. It's just going to be kind of one of those where you swallow hard and the lap times are going to be what the lap times are. It's not the formula of leaning into a corner right now. It's a formula of deployment and harvest and that kind of stuff. It's just kind of where we're at.
It's a great engineering puzzle.
Yeah.
It's not good from the perspective of being an athlete.
Right.
Is kind of how I'm feeling about it right now. And yes, it's going to be bad. You think that the battery thing was an issue here. It's going to be worse in Spa. They're going to get down to the end of that straight.
They're going to go up the hill and the car's going to want to stop.
Yep. And you're going to hear, if you listen to the onboard, you're going to hear the car going as it loses all that battery power. And it's honestly going to probably look pretty bad. And considering Belgium has not had too many great races lately, Belgium has kind of gotten to be known as one of those tracks where, it's in a beautiful place. It's an awesome layout. It looks really nice watching cars go around it. But it's not really well raceable for like the modern Formula One car. And I think we're going to kind of see that at its worst here. Right as Belgium's going to be going into like an every other year deal. So
what I do think you'll see on the positive side, and I don't know if you want to call this a positive, but I do think you'll see some overtakes in places that you normally hadn't in Belgium. Just because of the differences in deployment, especially if the drivers are still trying to figure all that stuff out. I could easily see some odd places for overtakes, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to be the ones when this whole thing came out, the two tracks that I thought of that were going to be the worst were Spa and Monza. And we're not there yet, and we're going to get there, and people are going to complain, but it's the formula that we've got. There really isn't a whole lot more that I can advocate for them to do. I think they've done everything they possibly can do with the hardware that they have. And unless you're going to tell everybody to make new hardware middle of the season, which they're not going to do because we've got a cost cap, this is the best we're going to do.
Yep. They've pretty much seen that the on-track product is not as good as expected. And they're doing what they can to try to make it better for this season and in the next couple seasons. So
yeah,
we've talked about that a bit.
It will get better. I mean, they definitely, with what they've done and where they'll get to by year 3, I think it will look and feel a bit more like traditional Formula One that we've been used to. It's just going to take a little while to get there.
Yep, agreed. Thank you, Dave, for your email. Our last one comes in from the Formula. Thank you, Mr. Formula. And he says, and the TV direction, once again, it took until lap 6 to show replays of the lap 1 incident with Albon at Behrman and Piastri's wing damage. That is baffling. I'm super pumped to see Charles get this win. He's too talented to stay in the funk he was in. Great to see how the championship is shaping up, but man, it's rough to watch Kimi getting hosed with reliability issues yet again. Overall, though, a pretty fun race with a very anticlimactic ending. Just not the best day for McLaren or Max, sadly. They're claiming a software error for safety car ending message. Bull spit. That's a good one. I'm going to have to remember that one when I'm at work. They let the other cars unlap themselves. After this, I finally heard the explanation that one lap must be completed after the unlapped cars go through. Yes, we are all on with the rules. Although, I kind of gotta wonder if you got that rule explicitly spelled out that you have to have another lap completed after unlapping the cars. At that point, if you're looking at the lap counter, like, why even go through the procedure and just tease us all? Like, why couldn't you be like, look, it's 2 laps to go. We gotta unlap the lapped cars and then run another lap. It's not going to go back to green, so we're just going to skip that procedure and end under safety car.
What they could have done was left the lap cars exactly where they were in the snake, and you got, if you're 4th and there's 2 lap cars in front of you, that's to 3rd place. You got to clear those 2 lap cars before you can play and go after 3rd place. I mean, that's another thing they could have done. They chose not to. They chose to try to do as many of the normal procedures as they could, and they literally ran out of time. And I don't believe software glitch. I believe it was somebody that came into the thing holding a rule book in their hand going, "You can't do that!" And then they went, whoops. That's what it was. And you know what? And if they came out and said that, hey, we just made a mistake, I think that would go a long way to reestablishing some credibility with the fans. These are human beings that do it, and sometimes they make mistakes. They don't have to be infallible. Shit happens. We can all, like, I would take that and I'd go, oh, okay. We tried to get the race going. They ran out of time. Such is life.
As far as the TV direction goes, I feel like I can't really harp too much on waiting until lap 6 to get that replay, because I'm pretty sure recently we were just talking about
them forcing
want
that
them to rush to the replays. So yeah, I'm kind of still on the same opinion as last time, where it's like, if there's stuff going on track, focus on that and get to the replays when you get to them. And there was quite a bit going on with the fact that you had both Ferraris goodbye at the beginning, and you got Kimi trying to fight back. Like, there was quite a bit going on. So
yeah, I'm all for yelling at the TV direction if on lap 5 you cut to some celebrity shot in the garage and go, "Oh, look who's here," and we haven't shown you what happened on the track. That I am all for lambasting them for. My recommendation would be, again, to, if there's a driver or someone that you want to focus on, it's totally worth it, in my opinion, to have at least one other screen, whether it be an iPad, a computer, second device, something, if for no other reason than to hear some of the radio, because the team radio will also tell you what's going on and what you may have missed. Like, I didn't know Oscar's car, I saw him drop on the timing, but I didn't realize he had the front wing damage until I heard it on the radio. And I go, oh, well, that explains the drop off. And yeah, and then you finally saw a shot of it and you realize, yeah, that front wing is fucked, and he's coming in. And that's probably day over, and it kind of sucks when that happens, but that's another thing that happens. But if there's specific drivers that you want to be seeing and you want to know what's going on with their race, I find it fascinating to listen to just the drivers and the radios of the stories consistently about who you want to follow, because I think you get so much more out of it. And I do the same thing with like IndyCar app. While I'm very annoyed with what they're doing video wise, because I can't seem to get their video thing to work anymore since they've gone to Fox, their audio still works, and you get so much more perspective as to what's actually happening, especially in a broadcast that has commercial breaks. Very important for you if you're a fan to actually know what's going on, because sometimes they can't tell you because they don't have time.
Last bit that we got here. Actually, I just drew a big fat blank. What was I going to touch on there? Well,
yeah.
If I think about it, I'll get to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say tough day. Yeah, totally.
It was
Max. And
it was the Kimi getting hosed with reliability issues again, and the overall being happy with how this championship is shaping up. I am happy that it is not a total runaway here. Now, were not for reliability issues, it certainly would be a total runaway. Kimi Antonelli would be way out front. And we talked about that going into the season, that you got all new chassis, you've got all new engines. We were expecting to be moving from what had been rock solid reliability for several seasons into, back where you see top running cars actually retiring from the race again. And that is unfortunately what's happened to both Kimi and George several times through the season. We got to remember that George was leading and fighting to win for Canada before he retired from that with issues. Kimi has had a couple sets of issues now. I mean, and it's going to play a part in the championship.
Yeah, I mean, up until these last two races, Kimi had been kind of shielded from all of the unreliability stuff. He really hadn't had that type of problem, and that's what got him to, at one point, which was almost a 70-point lead in the championship, because he'd been able to keep the car on track. Now, I don't think he's losing his championship lead. It is not a European slump. It is not a drop in form.
His form is great. He's just getting unlucky.
Yeah. Exactly. His form has been right on where it should be. It's just, it's the unreliability bug is gonna bite you in a new formula, and it's we've seen it bite across lots of teams.
And this is the way Formula One is, or really any auto racing plays a massive part. So if I guess I would hate to see if at the end of the season, a whole bunch of retirements made the difference between Kimi winning and losing a championship where he was clearly top dog. But we do see that happen. So we'll have to see where we're at the end.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Formula, for your email.
Yep. Thank you guys for your contributions. They are, as always, very much appreciated. All right, so we'll move into our awards. We will start with the rubbish. Cody, I'll let you go first here. I've got a couple of things here. What you got?
Our rubbish award is going to go to whatever the hell is going on with Max Verstappen's car. It has now been a couple times where he's been in good position. This time out, it was in the race on for a podium. Last time it was competing for pole position in Austria. And, he's had what we suspect might be the same issue in both instances. So clearly they still have some bugs to work out. And it hurts to see, not only because Max is my favorite driver and I really want to see him do well, but also, we're seeing again that he is that type of driver that is so good that he, even if the car is not the greatest, he can still drag it into awesome places. And, it really stinks to see him in the process of doing that. And then it finally gives up the ghost. So I really hope they get on top of that soon, because we're seeing that the upgrades have made the car much more competitive. I really think if they can figure out just a little bit more, that maybe Max might not go winless this season.
Definitely a possibility. I mean, he's definitely in the conversation a lot more than he was at the beginning of the season, for sure. All right, I have two, one on track, one off track. The on track one, this one's easy. Aston Martin. I know I could do this at any racetrack, but I thought it particularly poignant here because I was watching this on the timing. So Piastri has to come in and change for his front wing. He comes out. He is, according to timing and scoring, 45.8 seconds down on, I think it was Fernando Alonso. He was P22, Piastri was. Alonso's running around in P21. Piastri erases 45 seconds of deficit by lap 18 and passed both Alonso and Stroll on the same lap. Now, granted, that's a McLaren car. It's in clean air. It's got a new front wing, and it's got fresh tires on it. All of that is true, but that's not a great McLaren car. 4 seconds a lap. That's bad. Any way you slice it, that's bad. Wow. I didn't realize how bad it really was until I saw that. Because I really don't look down that much. Unlike Rachel, I appreciate you doing the Aston Martin watch. That is yeoman's work that you're doing. I don't usually look that far down the timing other than to glance to go, oh, they're still down there. I finally got
Aston
a chance
Martin
to
is hoping
see.
You're not looking that far down.
Right. Well, I looked and I saw and woo boy. The off track. And I feel like I don't like to yell at Formula One fans very often because I think most of them are usually pretty good. They're passionate. I get it. But do we have to do the thing where every time we have a question about the end of a race, we hearken back to 5 years ago and bring up all of those arguments again, which are irrelevant? That you cannot just draw a line because it feels good to go from this race, which had nothing to do with the events of 5 years ago at the end of the season. It's just an old argument. It makes it very tough. It makes it very tough for me to be on social media. I had to be on it because I was waiting on the Hamilton penalty result, which is an honorable mention. Why does it take 2 hours to do that? But anyway, it's old. It's old. It's a tired argument. There's nothing anybody's going to do about it.
You're going to hear it until the end of time, though.
I know, but can we start to maybe move on? Please? Good Lord. Anyway, all right. So that's rant number 1 over with. Analysis paralysis. Cody, what you got here?
All right, my analysis paralysis is really easy after I thought about it for a minute because it's going to go to that safety car ending where we thought we were getting our one lap shootout. We're teased right up until the very last moment. And then safety car was like, actually, no, we're staying out. So, yes, definitely a disappointing ending considering right up until that moment we thought we were going to have something special, something crazy, and we didn't get it. So,
Yeah.
after a very exciting 10 laps or so with all kinds of drama going down, we thought we were getting the icing on the cake, and it was not to be.
Yeah, and mine is kind of in the same vein as what you've got, and mine is very simple, that until the FIA picks a direction on this, and I mentioned this kind of earlier, if we are fine with saying we want to prioritize green flag endings, I'm cool with that. What I can't stand is the fact that we tend to want to live in the middle here, where we don't have to. We can say, screw it. It takes 4 laps to clear a car. The race ends under safety car. Fine. Then Burt Mylander should not have slowed down. He shouldn't have done anything different than what he normally would have done. If we're going to say that lap 51 is the same as lap 1, I'm cool with that too. But come out and say it. Just so we're not doing this stupid roulette thing, because it changes results of races. And it's not something that it's luck. It turns into nothing more than a game of Russian roulette. And yeah, George benefited from it, and others didn't. But everybody you knew, I was shocked that George stayed out, but you knew everybody was coming in for that set of soft tires, because if you didn't have that set of soft tires, you knew that there was no way that any of the tires that they were on, being a one-stop race as it was, we're gonna do a restart. So. Just pick one. Just come out and say this is what we're prioritizing. You'll make the fans, everyone will understand what's going to happen or what we want to have happen. Pick one. And then again, why does it take 2 hours to do a yellow flag infringement penalty analysis that results in no change to the overall result? That is something that drives me absolutely crazy when we do one of these Twitter refreshes and then people start making up stories that like, oh, I'm watching Ted's notebook and they're taking the picture, so that must mean he didn't get it. No, the FIA document's not out. Stop doing stuff before it's real. Drives me crazy. All right, I'm done. All right, dark horse of the day. Cody, what you got?
Mine is going to actually go to George Russell, and it's really not a dark horse throughout the weekend, although he was, not having his strongest weekend, but really, yes, going up toward the end of the race there, it looked like he was going to finish in 5th. Not only does fortune shine upon him and he gets all the way up to 2nd, but his biggest competitor for the championship retires. So he gets maximum points out of the Grand Prix. Well, maximum that he could get, barring, Charles Leclerc's engine crapping out 10 feet from the start finish line or the finish line. I keep forgetting that it's not a start-finish line in Formula One.
Yeah, it's a start line and there's a finish line.
Yep.
Well, some places it's both, but here they have the two. My dark horse, Rachel, this one's for you. We need more Bort license plates in the gift shop. I repeat, we need more Bort license plates in the gift shop. Gabrielle Bortoletto gets my dark horse of the day here. P8, a car that, he was a benefactor of some of the carnage, but you got to be there to do it. Good on Audi. They need those points. Good going, Gabby. All right, driver of the day. I think we have some consensus here. I'll go first with this one. This is Charles Leclerc. For me, great start. Kept it under control throughout the race. Never was really challenged, even though it looked like he had Kimi Antonelli bearing down on him. But that's when Kimi's car decided to say no more. But he managed to do everything he had to do to win this race. Deserving winner. Safety car ending notwithstanding. Charles Leclerc, driver of the day.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to go to Charles. He really had like a big mid-weekend turnaround. He was not great in the sprint portion of the weekend, but I don't know if they finally got the car into a window that he liked, or if he decided he was going to try something different with how he was driving it. But yeah, makes it to the front row in regular qualifying. gets the lead off the line and pretty much takes control of the race from there. Does get a little bit of luck with the Antonelli retirement. That was pretty much what sealed the deal for his win. But even so, he could have still been fighting for the win, would have had second at worst, probably. So, yeah, great weekend for Charles. Happy that he is back on the top step of the podium.
All right, very good. We did not get a chance because we were all very busy doing other things to be able to do predictions. Apologies for that. We will get back to that in Belgium. Last bit of things before I go ahead and close us out. I know there's a lot of stories out there percolating right now with a lot of potential driver movements. And my only piece of advice that I would give to everybody who's out there, trust your real sources. Trust your trusted sources. Do not fall into the trap of people trying to make stuff up for clicks. There has been no official announcement from Red Bull, no official announcement from McLaren on any potential driver movements. And as of right now, the exit clause has not been enacted on Max's side, and both McLaren drivers are under contract through the end of next year. So let's just kind of take a breath. I know Will Buxton got everybody all aflutter on Monday, including me, where I almost texted Cody and said, you might want to be by your phone today. He was talking about an IndyCar story, which is a whole nother thing, and that's a whole different podcast. I can go off on that for 2 hours. If you really want me to do that, drop a comment and I'll record something on that because I got a whole ton of thoughts on that mess going on over there. But whatever. Just when it gets like this, what I would tell you is trust your real sources, trust your accredited journalists, trust the sources that you trust to give you the best stories so that you're not getting the not truth. I will put something out if I know it, and that means that I've checked it like 3 times. When I know something from an official place, I will happily share it. And if we need to do an emergency pod between now and Belgium, we'll do an emergency pod between now and Belgium because that would be massive stuff. But we're in that weird time in Formula One where we can't seem to not do this. So just be careful. End of PSA. Cody, any thoughts on that or anything else to say about it? Or
if we get any breaking crazy news in Formula One, I've got a funny feeling it's going to be the kind of news that's going to make me sad. So I really hope we don't get any of that news and that everything that you hear is indeed fake. I would really like everyone to just be back in their same seats next year for the most part. Please don't run away, Max, just yet. But yeah, definitely trust your sources. As far as that IndyCar stuff that you're talking about, yeah, maybe we can touch on it during our preview.
Maybe we'll do our preview. We can talk about it. Yeah.
I don't watch IndyCar religiously, but I do watch the Indy 500, and I do follow the championship throughout the year. It's usually pretty fun, even though Alex Palou is going to win it until further notice. But yeah, big driver moves going on over there. Your guys in IndyCar, Arrow McLaren, trading up-and-coming young guns for experience. So yeah, kind of interesting to see what's going on over there, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, like I said, I could do I've actually watched a couple of very good interviews from like some real accredited journalists that have sat down with the major players, and kudos to everybody for, I think, saying as much as they can. Unlike in Formula One where it's all, all the contract stuff gets shrouded in secrecy, they're trying to be transparent. You may not like what they say, but they're saying it. So I give them kudos for at least saying it. But that's a thing for another day. So if you have made it all the way to this point in the conversation, thank you for staying with us. I know this is a long recording. There's a lot of sessions. We had a lot to break down. You guys are all awesome. Those of you out there listening, we will try to be back. We will try to get back onto schedule. God willing, we don't have any more weird weather for a couple weeks. We can actually get back to a normal schedule, and we can actually do a Belgian GP preview and a Belgian GP review when you guys expect it. But thanks y'all for listening. We'll be back soon. And until then, stay safe out there. It's a crazy effing world, man. And if something breaks, we will do our best to bring it to you. But until then, may all your laps be fast.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Outlap F1 podcast. If you like what you heard, click that subscribe button and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. If you want to connect with us outside of the show, check out our website at www.outlapf1.com. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at outlapf1 podcast, or email us at chatnow@outlapf1.com. As always, thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you on the next one.